Hi, welcome to the Stoughton Godfather Show. I'm your host, Peter Ventresco, and my special guest today is Lisa Lyons. She's a town meeting rep, and also she's on the Finance Committee, and she's going to be one of the new producers here at SMAC, and the show is going to be called The Lioness. I got that right?
A lioness.
Yeah, Lioness, okay.
A play on my last name.
Okay. So we're going to talk about finance stuff in the town. During your recent trip to the Association of Town Finance Committees annual meeting, what were the big things you took from it, and who did you hear, and what did they share with you?
So,
this one.
we, as being a member of the Stoughton Finance Committee, we had an opportunity to attend some training, and that was put on by the Mass Municipal Finance Association, and it was attended by towns all across the Massachusetts, and it was the big takeaway from that meeting is how important it is for towns to have a fiscal policy in place for multiple reasons. And we heard from multiple town managers and their assistants, as well as school committee members. I was particularly impressed with the Mansfield town manager and school committee member. They have a philosophy of one town. There's not two sides of the street.
That's interesting.
They've come together with a trilateral commission where they have, two members. They have members of their select board, finance committee, and the school committee actually working together in town. They had to do that because they had a surge of students into the town, and it put immense pressure on the budget. And it is phenomenal how well they work together, and I would really like that for Stoughton.
As you compare Stoughton to other towns in Massachusetts, what did you see as the biggest gap in how we operate our finance and projects?
Oh, okay. This is a significant problem here in Stoughton. We for starters, we have to get policies in this town. We have no policy on free cash other than a gentleman's agreement. For free cash, we should absolutely have a policy of best practice. In our town, I understand, has been told, you're a town meeting rep, haven't you been told for decades there shouldn't be the use of free cash in an operating budget?
Yeah, but they always do it.
And for decades, and it's causing a significant problem here in town. So we have to not only wean ourselves off of use of free cash and the operating budget. The other point that I didn't even realize is when we go to town meeting, as we're about to do on Monday, as a matter of fact, we should be first looking at the overall budget of the town. And we should have a policy in place that says, based on the percentage of your budget, you should be putting, before you start spending money on all the articles, a percentage of that money in your stabilization funds. So you have a general stabilization fund, you have capital building stabilization funds. Stabilization funds are in essence a savings plan for the town. And as you know, Peter, we have, significant capital projects coming up.
That's right.
And we need to be cognizant while we need to, have things built, capital projects and money spent on capital items, we have to have policies in place, as well as a combined, and when I say combined, I mean for the school committee with the municipal side of government, so that there is a roadmap on how we attend. So I just recently, I think it was today, got notice that on December 4th, they're going to have a public town meeting on reviewing the trash. Remember how they did the trash? Look at you, rolling your eyes. But that's a good thing in terms of us as a town coming together in a public forum to discuss priorities. So we basically need to plan, have priorities, and have a plan of execution. And we literally have none of that right now. And then further, if I might, do you have any questions on that piece? Because
Well, I'll go along with you as far as budget and stuff goes. We always overspend. And I think we've talked about this before on the show. We let the department heads figure out their budget and then submit it, rather than do it the other way around. The town should say, this is the budget we have, you got to work within that budget. And if you can't, that's too bad, because to back that up, for years, far back as I remember, every year when we do a budget, there's always like a $2 or $3 million give back to the town from the different department heads because they over budget and they give it back.
Which is called a turn back.
Yeah.
It's called
so
a turn back.
that money should have been taken off for years right off the top. And it put into a stabilization fund for projects down the road.
Well, that was one of the best practices, is that before, that's turn back money becomes free cash.
Yeah.
And before we start spending free cash, we should, that's what I was saying a moment or two ago. But in addition to the budget piece that you were talking about, that's the reason for the capital plan, because the capital plan is your roadmap of where you're going. If all we're doing here in Stoughton is helter-skelter coming up with projects. And at this point, based on last April's financial advisors that we had come in, we don't have enough debt inside our budget. So it was funny, at one of our recent finance committee meetings, I actually said, because we don't have enough debt inside the budget, debt should be between 4% and 6% inside the budget, up to a maximum of 10%. And why should it be? Because the bond councils give us better rates when we have that. And we, as of last April, we're probably lower now, I'm not 100% sure, but we were at 2.5, well below. And so at a meeting, I said, when that happens, when we don't have enough debt to pay off capital projects, the money just gets sucked up. And I had a member say, could you please, what do you mean by sucked up? I mean, and I almost started laughing. What it means is all the money just disappears into all these articles. We had 70 plus articles at town meeting last year. Yep. It is absurd. We need to have a capital plan and plan for it. So those are the major takeaways that I came.
All right, to add a little more to what Lisa's saying, all right, and we've discussed the same thing, I'm kind of rehashing things all over again. I mean, the town can go up 2.5% by law every year on your taxes. And then if you throw in new growth, say 5%, that means the following year, you're not going to get a 2.5% increase in your taxes, you're getting a 7% increase. Well, that's a lot. But then, okay, if you're building houses, okay, it kind of evens out because you got to take that money, send the kids to school, blah, blah, and this and that. But on the industrial or business side, like we got this big development company out of Canada, Brookfield, building up big buildings there. And Joe McCrisy said there's going to be a $2 million windfall for the town every year.
2.7 million, he said.
Okay, and I heard him say to you, hey, Lisa, all the departments can fight over the money. No, it shouldn't be the departments fighting over one penny.
Exactly.
That money should go into a stabilization fund and stay there to build up for when we need schools, or we need fire station, or we need some kind of apparatus, rather than take it out of the budget every year. That will give you some kind of control. Because if we don't, that $2 million is going to go on, add to the 2.5 plus it might, with this new company, it might, instead of going up 5 or 7, it might go up 10%. So that's going to be a big jump.
Yeah, to clarify for the audience, when he says it's going up to get 2.7 million plus all the property taxes and all the equipment that will be stored there, that is new growth. So really, our taxes are going up 2.5%, and they keep sucking up or spending all that new growth instead of, like you just said, and myself previously, instead of actually saving that money for these capital projects. So It's nothing different than anybody has to do in their own towns. I mean, in their own households. This is just basic. You don't have to be an accountant or know too much about finance. We might use a little, different words in municipal, like new growth. You'll hear words encumbered, or appropriate. Appropriated means we voted for it at town meeting, but we currently have town meeting reps who don't know how to hit the no button on their clicker.
Exactly.
And we are literally out of control spending here in Stoughton. And it literally has to stop.
Okay, getting back to this project before we move on to the next question, but Lisa, I mean, all that traffic, I don't know how many hundreds of trucks, trail trucks going in there every day. They're going to be dumping them onto Old Maple Street. That road is not going to be able to handle that kind of heavy traffic day after day after day. That should have been done in the planning board stage. They should have made a developer go out there and redo the road, dig it all up, put a new base down, and so it will hold the traffic. By not doing that, what's going to happen is the road's going to get beat up. We as taxpayers are going to have to keep repairing that road to handle these trucks, in which we shouldn't. So it was an oversight, but it's an oversight that
aren't they doing
didn't happen.
Aren't they doing a private way from the back of the building and onto
Old Maple Street?
I thought it was onto Page Street.
But Old Maple, then it goes up to Page Street.
Oh, you got to go to Old Maple first?
Yeah. It's a short stretch that connects Turnpike to Page Street.
Well, you know better than I, Peter. You're the statesman here.
Okay. Now let's get into the South School debate. What are the key differences and potential common ground between the yes group and the no group?
Oh boy, Peter. Okay, so I just want to start off by commending your former co-host here at The Godfather, I think. Did Ed DeFelice co-host with you at one point?
Yes.
For calling out citizens of this town for being uncivil to each other. I have been called a liar, I've been called giving out misinformation, and this is just at this point over the top. I have proven, and I can prove, the Stoughton No More Tax Hikes campaign gave out no misinformation. You mentioned earlier about a residential tax rate. The residential tax rate changes every single year. Vertex, the information we put out was put out by Vertex. For the school committee or the building committee, whoever put out that tax calculator, which was done at a 30-year term and on a specific interest rate, and even the town manager in his office, because I went to the town manager's office the day after the vote and let him know, just so you know, there's no gloating going on for the Stoughton No More Tax Hikes campaign. We truly want to work together. And I gave him an example. He said about misinformation. I said, there was no misinformation on our side. We put out the information that Vertex had. I said the misinformation is on the yes side, where they put out that calculator that they have no business. It was like, this is it, it's going to be $1 a day. No one decides that term or those interest rates but bond counsel. So, like when I came onto your show a few months back before this, I showed Excel spreadsheets and showed you the various scenarios that could take place based on various terms and various interest rates. And the reason I did that is because there's a range and we don't get to determine that. Neither the no voters, the school, the select board, or the yes voters. It is only the bond council. And the town manager actually said, yes, that was misleading. So whether or not he admits that is another story. But it's just not civil to begin with. So to answer your question, what are the key differences? The difference is I'm just going to give my opinion here. The building committee chose, I always say it, an over-designed, overpriced, over-the-top, pie-in-the-sky Taj Mahal design that it produced an exorbitant price, and they're going after a debt override. We have proof on the MSBA website that shows multiple towns who have been able to build practical designs at a reasonable price. So the no voters aren't no voters to say no new school. We recognize they need a new school, but they need a new school that can be built within the budget and without a debt override. And I literally just heard, I believe it was last night, the school committee superintendent say, I can't even go to option 3. Well, option 3 is what I just said. They should build a new school, practically designed, reasonably priced, within the budget, without a debt override. That is the solution to everyone, the yes and the no voters. The no voters are no voters to an override that is unnecessary. The difference is the yes side is using what I call unbelievable fear tactics in what I call master manipulation. So a master manipulation is, let's take that residential rate. That residential rate can change from year to year. They probably realize, oh shoot, we put out a price that is going to be very hard for the taxpayers to swallow. So let's reduce the residential rate the year that we're going to take a vote on the school. That's a manipulation of the public. Now, the fear tactics that they're utilizing is we're going to have to build modular. The cost to repair the South School is going to be almost as much as whatever they're saying. Both of those solutions, which they're calling solution 1 and 2, is absurd. The solution is the solution I just gave you, and that can please everybody. What they're trying to do is because, in my opinion, is that they being the building committee, chose the wrong design, and now, because of MSBA rules, they cannot change that design, and they're trying to shove it down the throats of the taxpayers. And the taxpayers, it is completely unnecessary to have a debt override. Now, I had a member of the Finance Committee ask Coulter during a presenter, so I don't know why he's getting asked, what are you going to have to cut? Like something would have to be cut. Based on all the previous comments I gave you, with all the new growth, all the lack of saving, all the free cash that's available, we can right now start, once you have pick one of the designs, it could even be a model school that's already designed, and start building those kids a new school. But even the petitioner for Article 15 that's coming up for town meeting on Monday was point blank asked, if we can build your children a new school that is not this Taj Mahal design, could you accept that? And she had to have said no at least 4 to 5 times. No, I'm going to listen to the experts. Well, Peter, let me tell you, we don't listen to, the Stoughton residents are shrewd, and they are on top of their game now. They get the game, and the time is up. They understand they're being manipulated. I tell them the government will take as much of your tax dollars as we allow them. It is our job of we the people to say no. We need to get fiscal policies in place, we have to have guardrails in place, and we have to have a roadmap, and we have to have savings. Now, we can do that right now before we go off the cliff. So, did I answer your question in terms of how to bring us together?
We're running low on time, so the last 2 questions, I'm going to let you decide which one you want to tackle.
Yeah, one of them, because
if we run out of time.
Yeah.
So the next one was going to be, what do you think of the leadership should do for the next, to build a clean and safe space for the kids? And the final one is, finally, what is the state of our town for handling so many projects that seem to be hitting us all at once? Do you see a cultural shift in who we serve as taxpayers and non-taxpayers, have we made the best investments in our town to serve the people who
Well,
live here?
that's a loaded question right there. Can I just take a peek at that little sucker? So, yeah, so that we seem to be hitting so many projects all at once because we haven't had a combined, that's the key here. And I commend the school committee very much for going out, even though it's going to cost money. I think it's going to cost a lot to get that capital plan. I was watching the school committee and they said it's going to take 2 months to do a full top to bottom capital plan for the school. How that's going to cost over $120,000 is beyond me, 2 months of work. That's people's annual salaries. That's a question for another day. But with regard to handling it, that's why you need, our select board is responsible for setting policy, as is the school for setting school policies. But in terms of the financial management of town, that fits squarely on the shoulders of the select board. And I only see one select board member trying to get policies in place in this town, and that's Mr. Carrera. Now, Mr. Cavey, who's the chair, said to me last year, I think you'll be happy what's going to come out of the select board. And Peter, it's budget season right now, and I haven't seen it yet. So this fits squarely on the select board members, and we really need to get that under control.
What do you think the town leadership should do next to build a clean and safe space for our kids to learn in?
Well, that's what I was speaking about earlier. We can build them a new school. I want to re-emphasize, it is literally absurd to even suggest modulars. Now, let me be clear, okay? From the school committee, every which way to Sunday, the building committee, they, regardless of what happened in June with the school vote, the children of Stoughton were going to be redistricted because we have American tax-paying citizens enrollment growth, plus we've had a surge of the illegal immigrants or migrants, for those who the former term upsets, a surge that has very real impacts on that budget. So when you do that, you have to have a plan. You have to pace the spending, and you have to have a plan. Well, we can't do everything on a debt override. The solution is still the solution. Build a new school. So they can do it one of two ways, okay? We can do it right now within the budget without a debt override, utilizing the free cash, the savings, all the good things that we should have been doing all along, okay? Or because people want to say, we can't give up the MSBA money. Well, then if you want MSBA money on it, then you're going to have to submit a new statement of interest. Now, it is already on record multiple times over that South School is safe right now. Now, it started out safe. They were going to use it for different purposes. Now the talking, and this is the master manipulation again, now the talk is we're going to have to shutter the South School. Well, if you stop fooling around and start, if you can build it right now, or if you want MSBA money to offset it, then get going on a new statement of interest, and that will take 4 to 5 years. If you listen to the town manager, it could take up to 6 to whatever years. Please, Stoughton's infrastructure is amazing. We've built it up, we've taken too much subsidy from the state, and that's why they're sending us all the hardships, okay? We have to find a better balance. And with regard to the school, like you said, did that answer the question?
Yeah.
There's 2 ways you can build them a new school.
Right.
Just stop with the absurd repairing the South School. Nobody's suggesting it at this point. And mind you, it's been neglected maintenance-wise, which goes to net school spending, which I'll address at a later date. That's been neglected. I mean, we have to start using some common sense as leaders. Our leaders need to have common sense. or follow those that do.
All right, getting back to the schools, Attleboro built a humongous high school. It's rectangle, which I keep saying that's what we should do here. Rectangle buildings, because they're cheaper. And it's like, it's either 3 stories or 4 stories high. And it's all brick. The 2 sides, flat walls. The back is a flat wall. The front is a flat wall, but they put a few little bump outs to break up the flat wall in the front. But they did not bump out the foundation. So they kept the cost okay. The building cost $250 million. So they spent a lot of money inside the building. Now, if we were to build that same school here with the same amount of money spent on the inside, that would cost us $500 million, because we got to bend these big elaborate
Pie in the
Taj
sky.
Mahals.
Yep.
With like the high school, you got different heights of the building, bump outs, inverts, all them bump outs and inverts. That just drives the cost out of sight. And so it's ridiculous. Build a plain school that's affordable, but the inside's going to be what it needs to be. And also, Attleboro, they have an in-house they a trade school. They don't send the kids out of town like we do here to Easton. And so they're making it work. So that's what we got to do. In fact, getting back to the MSBA, they give you that free money, but it comes with restrictions.
Correct.
It's like the high school. It's built small than what it's gonna be too small within a few years.
That's right. That's
Okay,
right.
I'm gonna let you finish because we're running out of time.
Okay, so you can go on the MSBA website. There's 2 other choices of designs that's already there. The model school, and then you can see all the other towns who have built a practical, reasonable price building that's less than what's the Taj Mahal design here. If it's up to the parents, they fought for the buses, let's fight for the school, but we're not fighting for a Taj Mahal with the debt override. It's not going to happen. So
That's right. We are for schools that we can afford. That's going to be the same education. Whether you spend $300 million or $500 million, the quality education stays the same.
Yep.
So we're going to sign off and say thanks for listening. Thank you for coming on the show.
My
Lisa.
pleasure.
Very
Thank you
good.
for having me.
That's it.
Take care.
Leave the gun. Take the cannoli.